So just as a review, matter can be separated into pure substances and mixtures, and then pure substances can be separated into elements, compounds, and mixtures into homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. So just as a review, a pure substance is one that consists of only one type of element or one type of compound, while a mixture is many elements or many compounds all mixed together. So for something to be an element, that means you can find it on the periodic table. A compound is two or more different elements. A homogeneous mixture is a mixture of compounds and or elements that is the same throughout. So this example here gives you tea, for example, while a heterogeneous mixture is multiple either compounds or elements, but they are not uniform throughout. And for example, one example of a heterogeneous mixture would be this example of water and oil. So the first thing in classifying matter is identifying either whether what you're dealing with is a pure substance or a mixture, and then from there, classifying pure substances as elements or compounds, and mixtures as either homogeneous or heterogeneous mixtures. So the next thing we're going to be talking about in this class are physical and chemical properties. Physical properties are properties that can be observed without changing the composition of matter, without changing the identity of the substance, while chemical properties are properties that can be identified only by changing a substance's chemical identity. So for example, if I said my shirt is blue, that observation, that property can be observed without changing the identity of the substance. Therefore, it is a physical property. Now, those are physical and chemical properties. Let's now talk about physical and chemical changes. A physical change is a change that does not alter the chemical identity of a substance. So for example, whenever you're melting something or freezing something or dissolving something, you're not changing the identity of the substance. It's still the same substance, and therefore it's a physical change. In contrast, a chemical change is a change that alters the chemical identity of a substance. So for example, if you take a piece of toast and you burn it, you've changed the identity of the substance, and therefore it is a chemical change. So if I dissolve salt into water, since I'm not changing the identity of the salt or the water, it's still salt and water, it's going to be a physical change. The last thing I need to talk about are the 5 evidences of a chemical change that we're going to be working with throughout this year. The first evidence of a chemical change is a color change. Now, that doesn't mean if I take water and add food dye to it, and let's say the food dye was yellow and the solution turns yellow, that's not a color change. That yellow already existed. A color change means if, for example, you have 2 solutions that are clear and suddenly they turn bright red, that would be a color change. So a change in color that it's not clear where that color change came from, that is one evidence of a chemical change, meaning you're changing the identity of the substance. The second evidence is a change in temperature. Now, if the temperature of the substance increases, then you have an exothermic reaction, meaning that heat is being released. If the temperature decreases, then you have an endothermic reaction, meaning energy is absorbed. The third evidence of a chemical change is the production of a gas. Now, if you're in solution, what you would see if a gas is produced is bubbles. The fourth evidence is the formation of a precipitate. Now, a precipitate is a solid, so if you combine 2 solutions together and suddenly a solid forms, you know a reaction occurred, a chemical change occurred. And then 5, the production of an odor. And sometimes, especially when you're dealing with cleaning solutions, you got to be extremely careful because if you mix cleaning solutions, you can actually end up with a toxic gas as a result of a chemical change. And that produces a pretty terrible odor, but also one that is toxic.